Hi, welcome everybody to the webinar on decoding service design for improved customer satisfaction. So what is this service design all about, or why is it that we are talking? Is basically to try and understand the missing link between the service delivery and the service promise that we make to the customer. As brands, we do a lot of investments, but we still end up having unhappy customers, or there is something which is amiss and there is a little dissatisfaction. So let's try and understand in this webinar, which tries to give you an overview of what service design means and how can the experience be improved. So before we get started, a little bit about me. So a little bit about your presenter, Vidya. So at Marketers Touchpoint, we basically are a customer experience, marketing, design thinking, consulting firm. I also write often in People Matters, CXO Today, Customer Think, in Your Story. And I'm the program director for design thinking, management development program at NL Dalmia Institute of Management Studies. At Marketers Touchpoint, we basically help our clients do 4 things. We help you understand your buyers. We apply design thinking to enhance customer and employee experience. We help you to build a customer-centric organization and help you revisit your digital strategy. So the agenda for today's session is to try to understand what is and what is not service design, the benefits of taking an outside-in view to the organization, and how does your service design uncover the lumps and bumps of the customer along their journey with your brand? What are the service design frameworks and tools available to you at your disposal? And to get a know-how of the desired customer experience that you would like to give to your customers to drive better outcomes. So let me begin by asking you, which coffee shop do you prefer? So if you have 2 coffee shops next to each other which offer the same price and similar coffee, what makes you walk into one and not the other? You could type in your responses on the chat box that's enabled out there. I see Alex pointing out that one of the images on the left has been cut and it's not the full image. And a lot of people have opted for the image on the right, but it would be great if you could also share as to why you would like to go to the shop on the right. Well, people say you can get a sit, or the ambience, or maybe the books that's available on the display out there. Or it could be also the kind of music that they play, the payment mode that they accept. It could be a credit card, a debit card, mobile payments, a food coupon. It's a layout, or it's the friendly staff behavior that you like that makes you want to go into their shop more. So at the end of the day, what we are talking about is the experience that matters, and that makes you take the decision as to which coffee shop would you go to. And today in the experience economy, it's increasingly important for brands to take this into consideration. What we are also seeing is today increasing the lines between hardware, software, and services are blurring. It doesn't matter whether you're an automobile manufacturer, but today, at the end of the day, the service experience that you provide to your customer matters. Whether it be the customer wanting to do a test drive or trying to book a servicing for the car at your nearest dealer workshop. Today, they can easily avail all those services by using an app or going to a website or picking up a phone and fixing up those appointments. No more have they do they need to travel uh, for several kilometers to reach the dealer to do a test drive, or they can just book and the test drive, the car would arrive at their doorstep. They can do the drive and then take the decision whether they want to proceed further with your brand. So increasingly, be it a manufacturer or be the traditional service provider like the companies which have been in the hospitality, retail industry, traditionally known for the services business, it's increasingly important for you to start focusing on the service experience. So even if a product manufacturer manufactures a great product, but at the time of using the product, if the customer has a problem and they're trying to reach out to you via your customer care call center or sending an email, your prompt response and your ability to address the query on time makes or breaks the experience for the customer. So service design in a nutshell, if someone had to say, define service design, the best one for me is service design is a shaping of service experiences that really work for people. You do that by removing the lumps and bumps that make them frustrating and then adding some magic to make them compelling. So let's try and understand what are the different elements that goes into designing this wow experience that we are talking about. It's very important for you to try and understand the basic fundamentals to get started. The three critical areas involved in the service design. So you have the customer, you have the business, and you have the interaction between the customer and business. So the customer and their whole buying journey, so there's something that goes on in their mind before they're trying to make the purchase. And once they're convinced that you're the brand, they buy and they start using your services or product. And once they start using, they form their own opinion and it validates their decision to having made this purchase on your brand. And they decide whether to continue with you or exit. On the business front, we see there is the customer channel and the different touch points via which the brand can interact with you. Organizational hierarchy and frameworks. So basically which binds the people together in the organization to deliver. The systems and processes that are there in place to enable the employees to deliver the experience to the customer. And the interaction between the customer and the business could be a happy or an unhappy or a neutral one. And it would all depend upon how this whole elements play at the different touch points when a customer is interacting with the brand. So moving on, let's try to understand a little more as to what goes on in the buyer's mind. And as a brand, what is it that you should be doing to ensure that you're giving them that repeatable, consistent, and peace of mind when they're trying to interact with you. So before they are trying to, in the stage where they're trying to understand a little bit more about their requirement, it's important for us to try and understand where does the customer come from, what is the previous know-how or experience that they come with. So they're trying to understand as they're trying to evaluate you and understand their requirement better as to will connecting with your brand make them look smarter about the choice that they are making? Will it help them to look great in front of their friends? Can they trust you? And how is that need or the problem that they've been struggling with would be solved by you? And once you get a little bit of feeler by reading about your brand, talking to your different representatives, and they get that comfort and they start, they take the decision to begin the relationship and buy the product, they have questions which goes on in the mind to try and understand, will it install as per my needs? You know, uh, will it deliver based on whatever the demos has been showed to me? Uh, and can I get it right by my own on the first time? A lot of things goes on in their mind. As they move on to start using and they start having their expectations, and you know, they want to do a little more advanced usage of your product. So that's when the stress test happens to see whether, you know, the product or the service that you offer is really reliable, and do you show up when things go wrong, or is just that all that was happening in the early stage of the relationship when they were trying to you know, engage with you and trying to entice you, or uh, post the marriage that you've had with them, are they still attentive to you? So is it, and you also start wondering, is it possible to feel like that every time you try and interact with the brand? So all the interactions at this stage make them decide whether they want to stay loyal with you, do they want to recommend you to their friends and family, or do they exit? Unfortunately, in today's digital era, with the kind of opportunities and options that are available to the customers, it's very easy for them to walk away. And as brands, we don't even know what went wrong, why did they leave. So it's very important for us to try and understand what possibly could have gone wrong in that whole journey and or the relationship. So the first step is to try and understand your buyer. Start with the persona. Now, each buyer, depending on the age, depending on the background, depending on the occasion, depending on the necessity, depending on the budget, they have their own set of requirements. So these personas basically represent the different segments of your customers. They help visualize the customer you are designing for, the solution, and accordingly you ensure that you're available at each of the different touch points that they want to interact with. Now, for example, you see a family out there which is a family occasion, so it's all about they having a great time, the kids having a great time, the grandparents enjoying the time with their grandchildren. You see a couple, the guy out there all set to impress his fiance or girlfriend, and wants to create a different aura and a memorable evening. And you see some kids out there having a quick meal, a budget meal, and on the move, or someone who just wants to relax at home and just decides to order a takeaway, or someone who just wants to grab a bite along the journey. So you see that your buyers could have different needs, different requirements, and it's very important that as a brand you're able to address that. Now we see that it's very important for us to try and understand that as we are trying to interact with the brand, we have something called the micro and the macro moments. So there are these I want to know moments, the I want to go, I want to do, and I want to buy moments. Now these are terms that has been coined by Think with Google, a website. And so what happens in I want to know moments is when the consumer wants to learn something, to understand their pain points, and are searching for information on a product or a related topic. In the I want to go moments, they're all about location and can yield big benefits. So it could be about where can they visit to touch and feel the product and get the experience that they feel that the brand can provide. So locations such as on-hand inventory, approximate wait times, or available tables in case of restaurants. So these are the I want to go moments that we need to take into consideration. I want to do is all about when they're looking for information on how to use a product to complete a product related task, satisfying the how-to movements with interesting ways to find content can significantly improve the brand loyalty. And your YouTube channel could play a big role in this case. The I want to buy moments is when, for example, the person is researching on auto loans, interest rates, and he's very clear now about which company is offering the best rate, and has decided to go ahead and close a sale because he has evaluated and done all the homework and is now all set to make the purchase. And then is looking out for the relevant touch point, a channel via which they can go and make he can go and make the purchase. While we have spoken about the larger moments, it's very important to try and understand the micro moments as well. Whereas brands, we need to ensure that we are there, we're useful, and those quick moments. And it's very important for us to anticipate the micro moments for users in your industry and then commit to being there. For example, if you're a retail store and you have a walk-in customer and you sense that the person is feeling lost and you need to do something about it, possibly your agent, or it could be a robo-help, or it could be an app which could help that person navigate and help that person be guided through for whatever is bothering them. So being useful about is being relevant to the consumer's need in the moment and connect people with the answers that they're looking for. And being quick is those micro moments for a reason. Like mobile users want to know, go and buy swiftly. Your mobile experience has to be fast and frictionless. So it's all about the kind of experience that you can give to your customers when they are interacting in their and trying to get answers to some of the questions that's been bothering them. A great experience with us. Now, unlike us as marketers or as brands, we think about channels and we say, okay, I have an online channel and I provide a great experience out there and I'm happy and done with. But customers, they think about us as a brand and they have an end objective, that is a problem that they want to solve for themselves, which they perceive that our brand will be able to solve for them. So they may get to know about our brand or a problem that our brand solves for them using a Twitter, and then and they may have viewed this tweet on their handphone, and then they would want to go and check out the website to try and figure out and get a little more details, and they call up a local store to check out about the availability of stock, and then they decide to go ahead there. And then they visit the store and they're still not sure about the purchase, and they still are trying to gather and figure out some more about our brand, and they finally make the purchase on the website, though they did visit the store in the past. So today as a brand, we need to understand that a customer is omni-channel. So they're trying to understand the problem can start somewhere and the end closure journey can happen somewhere in some other channel. And it's for us to ensure that we provide a seamless, smooth experience across the whole channel. So what is it that we do? So the next step, once we've understood our buyers, is also to try and understand our customer's journey. So this is an example about a customer life cycle and different stages along their buying journeys. And at each stage, there is a sample moment that we talk about, and it's for us to ensure that the engagement signals are right. So for example, here this is an example of a SaaS service provider where we are talking about the stage onboarding and engage. So at the onboarding stage, when they've tried our product and they decide to go ahead and make that initial purchase, they need the flexibility to self-manage the accounts. So that's the moment that we are talking about. And the engagement triggers to our brand like us, who's a SaaS service provider, to know that things are going on the right track. Imagine the traffic signal and the red green light signal that we see. So all's good when we see that the person is coming in regularly, using the product, and is able to self-configure. Arijit, is it better now? At the note, thank you. So at the notice stage, it's about we need to be a little cautious to see if the person is not coming in a regular basis, and even after 30 days, there's a very minimal usage. And if it's at risk, we know that the engagement is at risk if we see that the person is absolutely not logged in or has absolutely not done any configuration. Then we definitely know that person is on the exit mode. So as a brand now, I can take definitive action to try and see what is it that I need to do. So at every stage, it's very important for me to try and understand those engagement signals as to how the engagement is progressing with the client, and it's for me to design what is that experience that I should be talking about, and how do I gauge that. So the systems and processes which impacts the customer journey, there are quite a few. So one is, of course, the promotions that we are talking about, which attract the customer towards our brand, and then for example, in case we're talking about a credit card application, so there's so something gets announced and there's a sale, and you say you buy this using our card, you get a 20% or a 10% discount, and that entices me. So I request for a card, and then there is a validation process done by the organization, and then they either approve or reject the form, and then I finally receive it. Now, so these are the systems and processes that are already there in place in the organizations. So how quickly and how fast can we expedite is what matters. So if you also look at the example about, the way Reliance Jio came in with a big bang and helped cut down on that process time for acquiring new customers. So that's also another recent example that we have seen as to how did they do this massive improvement to cut down on that acquisition time, and the onboarding, of course, had its own set of challenges, but then we're talking about the acquisition phase and how smooth and the kind of process improvement that they did internally to acquire them. So basically, the next thing that we need to look into is a service blueprint. So at each stage in the whole customer buying circle, the customer has their own aha and oho movements. So if we take a step back and try and look at it, there's something that's going wrong within the organization. It's something is wrong between the interactions that internally happens to deliver the experience to the customer. So service blueprint is basically an exercise that helps you understand where in the organization we are having problems based on the negative experiences or the neutral experiences of the customer. I take a call as to where I need to prioritize, the projects that I need to prioritize on to ensure that the customer experience is not compromised. Because as a brand, I always have a budget, so I need to take into account which activities that I need to prioritize on. So in service design, as the rules of competitors are changing, it's very important for us to try and understand what the customer sees is what happens on the front stage. So the frontline staff, the sales guys, the call center with whom the customers are interacting on a regular basis are the ones who help make or break. But in the end, the backstage, that's the other teams internally within them. It could be the IT team, the administration, admin team, the HR team, which basically enables the front stage to go about delivering the right experiences, and the management behind the scene ensures that they have the right set of policies, the budgets, and the whole support that this front end and back end team, the backstage team, requires to deliver that experience. So it's about building that culture of engagement so that the customers feel that wow experience. So to bring in that, it's very important for brands to understand that the experience of the front stage and the backstage employees also need to be taken into account. So if someone asks us a question, what frustrates, if you go and ask an employee, what frustrates you about your job most, you'd get a list of things, and you'll realize that is becoming the showstopper in them doing their work better. So if you want to stay ahead of the competition, like as HCL was the first company in India to go about making a bold statement that employees first and customers second, it's very important when you're talking about improving your customer experience and satisfaction, this mantra gets put into play. So as organizations move towards a new design, it's very important that we get also a single personalized view of the customer. So, and the different stages they are in, someone who's not ready to buy, someone who's ready to buy, and someone is a new customer. And depending upon who that buyer is, as a marketer, and depending on the touch point that they are in, we have to decide what is it that we need to do to ensure they move to the next stage of the buying journey. Because at the end of the day, our objective is to close that sale, but also to ensure that once the sale is done, the customer stays back with us and continues to stay with us for a longer period. Because we all know that acquiring a customer is quite expensive, and retaining a customer is far easier, but it's important that to retain, we provide that great experiences. So the behaviors and outcomes that we are looking at as an organization that we need to look into when we are trying to become a service design organization also needs to change. So instead of the businesses just looking at a profit or bonus or a short-term driven organization, it's important for them to move to become customer driven, employee driven, and also look at a long-term focus. So you just can't go by business as usual and try and say, okay, I won't look at the long term, or I'll start compromising and trying to cut corners. So while you have to continue the business as usual, but you have to look at how is it that you would improve for the better, so that you can stay ahead in the race. And the employees, instead of you having a lot of frustrated, demotivated employees and having high attrition, it's important that you need to design their experience so that they feel engaged, empowered, and the turnover minimizes. We all know that to onboard an employee, to train them, takes a while. So by the time they can actually start contributing to the organization, it takes a while. So it's very important that we bring about this change in the way we start treating and look at our employees. And the customers, as a result of this behavioral change inside that is happening, we see that instead of being annoyed, who leave us or who talk ill about us with others, are basically happy, loyal to our brands, and spend more with our brands. So yes, that's where we need to grow into. So it's very important we also keep into mind that as brands, we also need to have great value propositions. So it's very important as a part of service design that you look into what is the value proposition you have to offer. So some of the great brands and some of the value propositions that they have to offer is up there. Amazon speaks about convenience, speed, choice. A MACD speaks about friendliness, cleanliness, consistency, convenience. FedEx is about ensuring the package is delivered safe, and reaches you on time. and a Walmart talking about low prices and huge selection of offering. Possibly could relate to D-Mart, which is there in Bombay, and some select cities out here in the country. So this calls for a mindset shift. So instead of just this inside out focus that we have as a company to say, okay, if I do this, this is how my department can better become more efficient. It's important for me to look at the pain of the customer, the challenges that they're facing, because they're the first ones to realize, if we're doing something internally to suit ourselves, but it's not really suiting them. So we need to have a view of the customer and their pain points and try and design. And of course, have the right kind of internal processes, SLA metrics, to ensure, to guide us that we are on the right track. But the objective is looking at the ease and convenience that we need to offer to our customers. So if you look at it, I mean, we say we are rational, so decision making is pretty logical. Yes, there is definitely a part of logic to it, but we also need to understand as emotional human beings, there's a lot of emotion that also goes in the subconscious mind. And that is what decides whether, when we are going about making a purchase of a brand. Now, this gets proven by a survey which was recently done by the Temkin Group, which speaks highly about emotion matters, an impact on the emotion on loyalty. So they had done a survey of about 10,000 US companies, and the results is out there for you to see. So where a customer is likely to purchase more often from the company where they feel connected with the brand, and where they feel that they need to continue the relationship. So some of the parameters that were evaluated out here was the likeliness of a consumer to purchase more from a company, recommend the brand, trust the company, or forgive if there's a small mistake that was done. Like, for example, today we had a small glitch. So I do hope that all of you forgive me for this mistake, and do come for our subsequent webinars that we will be conducting in the near future, and try our offerings and get an experience about it. So if we say that we've been doing a lot of talking about B2C as examples, what about B2B? Okay, the SaaS solution is also a form of a B2B solution, unless it's something for a consumer. The emotions also influence a lot of B2B buying journey. We'll also see an example of a B2B customer or situations where service design comes into play. So as you see that there's also a business value versus personal value that comes into play, and buyers typically, when they also see that a personal objective also being achieved in that purchase, the likelihood that they would recommend your brand and stay put with us. So it's very important that when we are connecting with our B2B decision makers, we also try and answer this question: what's in it for them when they are trying to select our offering. A statement by Rick Parrish from Forrester speaks about the importance of emotion. And he says that the single most important thing that companies can do who are already doing well and on their CX transformation journey is to understand and embrace the importance of emotion in CX. And that's where the empathy, the human understanding comes in, about designing solutions, keeping in mind the human needs, frustrations, aspirations being addressed in the solutions that we deploy for them. So the impact is, why is it that brands now seriously need to consider about looking at service experience, or trying to understand the customer journeys better and trying to remove those lumps and bumps as we spoke about. This is a survey that was done by Aberdeen last year, which clearly shows that companies who've invested in trying to come closer to their customer are standing to benefit. And in fact, there is a survey that was done by the Design Management Institute of companies who invested in design thinking and service design to build more human-centric products and services. And they did a survey of them on the S&P index, S&P 500, and 15 companies over a period of 10 years repeatedly have exceeded by 220% plus. And it's called Design Value Index. It's still not a formal index at this point in time, but yes, this research has shown that, and exceedingly well performance. So that's the kind of power we are talking about for companies who are embarking on this journey. Now, it's also important for us to try and understand about some of the barriers that organizations are facing in trying to improve the customer experience. This is a survey that was done in India by eConsultancy, and you see some of the results which is showing up there. So we see that there's a lot of leadership alignment that needs to happen, a business case building that needs to happen for companies to realize that for them to be future ready, it's very important to start focusing on the service design aspects. So in a nutshell, what service design does is basically help connect the customer, business, and the organization together by ensuring that all those frustrating movements, be it for the or for the customer, is workshops that you attend on a service design would be typically hands-on, and you'll get a hands-on feel of how to apply those tools, and you can take it back to your organizations and actually start applying. So it's about action. It is not about theory sitting in. So there's a framework as to how do you go about applying it. So you first need to define the opportunity space. So as an organization, you would have understood where is it that you're seeing repeat complaints possibly coming in from the customers, or you're seeing a lot of abandonment issues. So that's the area that needs to be explored a little further, and to try and understand the user use cases, what are the pain points and what are the expectations. And then you go about this whole blueprinting exercise right from the customer journey to trying and understanding the different departments within the organization and their interconnections, and where does make or break issues are happening, and bringing in the design thinking principles. Once you've identified the frustrations, it is about trying to reframing the problem, as we call it, because often there are times when we treat a symptom and we actually don't treat the problem. So once we have reframed the problem, we start looking at the different solutions. It's very important to bring in a cross-functional team, because each one of them brings in their diverse inputs, and that contributes to the final solution, and you don't miss out something at a later stage which might backfire on the project. And you create a quick prototype. Now, depending on the industry, the kind of prototype you may have may vary, and you do a quick test with some trillion users, and then you iterate based on the feedback you receive from them, and then you're ready for the big bang rollout, and it's a continuous improvement process. So there are a lot of tools that we use along the journey. So there are service stakeholder motivation matrices, activity maps, walkthroughs, blueprints, empathy maps, mood boards. So each would be giving you a different aspect of the customer, and then it could be used by the different departments within the organization to go about engaging with the customers and enticing them and retaining them with you. So if someone thinks that uh, it's going to be an expensive affair, because in terms of the time that one needs to put in, and of course working on two different jobs, your current job and the future readiness, if someone thinks that good design is expensive, it's very important that one looks at what is the cost of a bad design, and you'd get to know about that. So some of the examples of B2B and B2C that we are talking about, hospitals today, when you're talking about trying to provide that experience to the customer, a lot of service improvements needs to be done. We know, whether be it a hospital or a small clinic or a doctor, there are a lot of those frustrating experiences that we have. And how do you ensure that the patient feels relieved that they are at the right place, makes a lot of sense. Consulting is an area where there's a lot of interactions happens, and if anyone is interested to know how do you apply service design thinking, they can reach out to us. Be it in commercial banking or in retail banking, when you're trying to improve that experience. For example, Bank of America way back in 2003 realized that for the bank to survive, it's important that they start looking at the customer experiences. In fact, they were the first in the banking segment to start experimenting with service design, and they made a lot of changes live by implementing them at select branches. So to ensure that they get the buy-in, they would ensure that the bank, that branch fund the whole program. And it's a very interesting case study available in HBR, and it's an open case study, so you can just go and write about the service experience at Bank of America, and you'll get it. It was done way back in 2003. So there is a lot of examples that we are talking about where it could be a high interaction or a low interaction. In every place there is an element for improvement, be it at a call center or be it at field repair, where a service agent is trying to come and fix a problem at your residence or at your office or wherever is it. And it's important that you have to act before the competition does. There's a lot of information that's available out there on the website. If anyone is interested, we could share things with them. I could give you a little more insights about what service design thinking is all about and how can you apply for your work. So feel to reach out to us. So this was the 101, just trying to give you a very high level overview of what service design means. We would be having subsequent advanced sessions on this topic, so I would look forward to your joining to understand more on this topic and how does it benefit you and your organization. Thank you, and I'm open to question and answers. Thanks, Suresh. Thanks, Arjit. So if you have any questions, I would request you to type it in the chat box. And while we are waiting for an experience, let's just quickly do another poll to see how well did people grasp what we spoke about. Sorry, this poll was already shared, so I'll just pull up the next one. Yeah, so the question is out there. We're talking about, so it would be great if you could share your thoughts so we just get a feel of what you captured in the webinar. Well, I have Sikta talking about what if one of my services could potentially impact other ones. Yes, there are quite a lot of such services which come by. A typical experience I could speak about right away. Say when you're in a website, an e-commerce website, trying to do a transaction, there are a lot of chances of friction or fusion with our third-party service providers that could happen. For example, with the payment experience, or it could be with your supply chain network with whom you have arrangements for delivering the product. So that could be a fusion or a friction about how you design. So it's about building in redundancies in your system, and it totally depends on your sector, the stage you're in, the maturity of the market, your competitors. So a lot of factors come into play, Sikta, when you're trying to design the experience, and we try to prioritize. So if we could have an offline conversation, I could share more details once you give me a little more insights about what you have in mind. Nandita. While organizations have their defined SOPs with audit mechanism, how is service design going to contribute more? See, in spite of the fact that organizations have SOPs, audit mechanisms, as a customer, we're still frustrated with the brand. Would you agree or not? True. So that is what we are talking about. See, if we are today talking about the way an Amazon, a Uber, a Facebook has come and redefined the experience, the expectations from the other brands have increased. So as a service provider today, it doesn't matter whether you're a startup or you're a mid-sized organization or you're an established brand. The minute you decide to be made available on a particular challenge, the customer's expectations are very clear. Or if you're not present in a particular channel, the customer again starts asking you, why are you not there? Maybe the number of takers for that space at this point in time is minimal, but then they're definitely there. Second, organizations are in the process of trying to understand what this D word means for them. I mean, what does digital means for them, for their sector. Every sector is undergoing a disruption. So it's not about providing the service the way you used to provide. It's about how can you minimize the steps when you're going about providing the experience to the customer. It's about the frustration that the employees feel when they're going in. Let me give you a very quick example out there. We typically end up calling a call center, all of us would agree that we get put on hold for a few minutes, even after going through the IVR and all the number entering. We still have to go and repeat a lot of stuff to the customer, to the service agent. And after we have told our sob story, we get put on hold. The reason is that they don't have all the ready answers. They have to internally get back with multiple departments or look through multiple systems to find the answer that they need to give to us. So there's always that compromise that is going on. We've been living with it for so long, but in the experience economy going forward, brands can't afford to do that because customers have their liquid expectations. So today, for example, my service provider let me down, and if I see this happening on a regular basis, I'm going to let go of that service provider and shift overnight and not even bother talking to them. And because I have that option, I have that decision to talk about. So service design gets very important for companies where currently, there's a lot of churn that is going on, where there's a lot of challenge that's going on. Now, for you to retain, you need to try and see what is it that you can do. I hope I answered your question, Nandita. Thank you. So any other questions you have to ask? Excellent. So yes, employee empowerment is the answer. So it's very important for us to take that into account. So there's a lot of organization mindset change also that comes into play, Nandita, when we're talking about service design, because traditionally very few organizations go about empowering their employees to take the decisions on the spot to ensure that the employee experience is not compromised.